All right. First rule of this channel, we not talk about this channel. Second rule of this channel, this is not legal advice. So this is going to be the week one, how the sausage was made for the 2024 season. And if you guys are new to this channel, this is where I don't really watch any football anymore. I basically sit down and look at the box scores and kind of get ready for my week. This was a rough one. Both my co-managers were not too happy with kind of the direction of some of the guys I wanted to go with. Very odd week. Some of the stuff that we thought that we knew was definitely true. Some of the stuff that we thought we knew was definitely wrong, and we'll get into that a little bit. From the perspective of kind of what I'm looking for this week is the stuff that I want to go out there and know ahead of time when I look at the box scores, so I can start planning my week. If I'm going to have to do roster moves, whether it be trades and how I'm going to attack waivers. The priority guys that I want to be paying attention to, like if I want to go watch tape on certain guys, if I don't want to, or if I'm just going to chase numbers, look at snap counts, and opportunities, those type of things, so I can plan ahead. Because most importantly, from fantasy football, like it's about predicting the future. It's not about the guys that I'm in a knife fight for, week one. It wasn't about like the guys that I was right about or wrong about week one. Yeah, this hurts. Like, every win can't be replaced from a fantasy football perspective, but being able to put together the best lineup that I can to win leagues sometimes takes me planning ahead into the future and being able to predict correctly. So, sometimes the stuff that I thought I knew, I can be right about week one, and some of the other things I got to go out and I got to find out and predict ahead of time, like who am I going to start stashing now for those opportunities in the future, and who are the guys that I'm wrong about and I need to move on. When you're wrong, you're wrong. So in the case of like Jaden Daniels, like when you're right, you're right. And I said this all all off season. All he has to do is hit a certain number of rushing yards, and he's going to be able to win leagues at the price that he's going at. So that's how easy it was. He was going around like right around like quarterback 10, which was where he was getting a little too rich for me, but I get him in my main money league. I did not get him in my less competitive league. I went a different direction in that one, but in this case, like, he's the guy, probably not going to always fall into the end zone, probably going to have better passing days than he did today. Maybe going to be a little bit volatile. When it comes down to it, I think he had like 26 points. And again, your scoring settings may be a little bit more, a little bit different than mine, 28 points on this, sleeper league. But in this case, like that's how it is. Like you just predict that guy ahead of time, say, hey, he's got this opportunity to win me a league at the price that he's going at. It's not going to cost me anything to be wrong on him. And if I'm right, like I got this positional advantage versus the rest of the guys in my league. And that's generally what we're looking at. So like the 2 rushing touchdowns may not be something that I can expect to have. He's probably going to be flirting with about 10 this year based off of what I saw of usage. And then, can't really do much worse than the 184. I think he did throw a pick or something like that. And then, to go along with no passing touchdowns. So those days are going to be better as long as I get that 88 yards rushing plus or minus like a rushing touchdown. Like that's all I need from a quarterback to be able to be competitive and theoretically win leagues. So that's what we're going to be looking at today when we looks at we looking at the box scores. So from a perspective of the Steelers and the Falcons, and I'll talk about this with like a lot of teams that are out there, is sometimes there's bad matchups, and there were a lot of bad matchups today. From a fantasy perspective, I don't care. Good teams and good players will be able to transcend their matchup. So that like I don't care about that. If they can't do that, I already have a problem. So there's going to be a lot of teams that we're going to talk about today, like we probably have problems with already week one, because unless they can solve the problem that occurred today, they're going to be they can't be ones. They can't win me leagues. That's just how easy it is. They're going to face teams down the line that can do the same thing that caused the problem today because they're not matchup proof. And in general, that's why like the rule of thumb of going after good pieces on good offenses is always going to matter, because like those offenses, they can get a bad matchup and those guys can produce. Like how the sausage was made. Sometimes I don't care if that wide receiver catches a touchdown pass and has limited targets, or he throws a touchdown pass and has limited targets. He got me a touchdown and I can win my week. He gives me a 40-degree day. I'm never going to remember that 40-degree day, but I'm going to remember the guys that lose me a week, and I can remember the guys that win me a league. And that's what we're generally looking at with these guys. So from the standpoint of the Steelers and the Falcons, I'm already talking about this in the team previews ahead of time. When it came to the Steelers, like their defense is good enough that their offense just has to be like okay, and they have the opportunity to win a Super Bowl, or lose a Super Bowl. So in the case of the Steelers, like that's just generally what it was. Like we could talk about the Atlanta Falcons. I'll go and I'll watch some of the tape. Very odd day. Like I was expecting this to be a little bit higher volume passing out of the Falcons, but like when you're not very good um, against a team that has a very good defense and they can slow the game down, like it just doesn't matter at that point. Like if you can't turn this into a track meet, the Steelers are more than happy to play in the mud. That's generally what I heard from like what I saw this game. The Falcons just couldn't get going. And the two things that we're looking at from Bijan, like I don't care about the 18 carries and the 68 yards. Like that doesn't matter to me. What I was looking at is the 5 targets that he turned in for 5 for 43. So like there's my running back one. That's the road to a legendary season right there, just from the passing work. He's going to fall in the end zone. That 18 for 68, he's going to fall in the end zone. Tyler Algier only had like 3 carries. That's just generally what I care about on that one. So when it comes to the other two guys that we're looking at, like, hey, well, Kyle Pitts like found the end zone. He was wide open in the end zone from what I saw. And Drake London only had 3 targets. That's the bigger issue. And it doesn't really matter after that. Like if this is a 1 week, aberration because the Falcons coaches were stupid, that's fine. Like we can rebound from that. Now I have to make sure that like whether he's my wide receiver 1 or my wide receiver 2. In my main money league, he's my wide receiver 2. That was bad. In my less competitive high school league, my 12-man league, he's my wide receiver 1. That was really bad. So in the case of Drake London, I already have to start pivoting. Does this mean I need to panic? No. But like this was already something I knew coming into the season could be a problem. It was already a problem. Drake London can be a contested catch guy. The fact that he only had 3 targets is a coaching problem. It's not an actual like, is he good at football? Is Kirk Cousins good at football? You need to just throw the football up to your best guy and go like, hey, go make a play, because that's what you're there for. They didn't even do that with them. So like the 7 targets to Ray McLeod, like, is he your best player? No. Is he your second best player? No. Is he your third best player? No. Why is he getting those opportunities? Why aren't the other guys getting your opportunities? That becomes a problem. That's something that I would care about. Now, when it comes to the Steelers, we talk about like Justin Fields. He had 14 carries to go along with like the 17 for 23. So again, like as long as he stays the starting quarterback for the Steelers, those rushing yards, they're going to give the opportunity to win elite. The 2 other things to look at, or I should say 3 in this case. So Najee had 20 carries to go along with 2 targets. The other thing was Jaylen Warren, the 2 targets that he only had, expecting it was going to be something closer to a 50-50 timeshare. It wasn't. And then Cordell Patterson comes in and vultures 4 carries. And I don't think he got any targets. So that's already a problem. Now, Pat Freiermuth, he was always going to be a fringe top 10 tight end. So I don't really care about like the 4 targets are fine. George Pickens doing the 7 targets for 6 for 85. Like now we're getting in the road of fringe top 10 guy because of those like 7 for 6. Like he can be an efficiency guy or he can be a volume based play if this is what's going to go on. So I generally like that from what I saw of George Pickens. And in this game, like the Steelers are going to play ugly all year. And maybe we can chalk up some of this Jaylen Warren usage to like him coming off the hamstring. Maybe we could talk about that. Like at this case, I don't think Najee is going to get enough of the receiving work to push him in the running back 1 level. And then I'm not going to get the receive or not going to be consistent enough with the rushing touchdowns to do that either. So I'm not entirely worried about like Jaylen Warren yet. I would be next week. I'm expecting the overall usage for Najee to go down next week if Jaylen Warren is a little bit more healthy. All right, moving on. I don't know where this is at. Okay, so Ravens Chiefs are just like updated on me like it tends to do on ESPN. I already talked about this in the roll don't roll griff, so I'm not going to really get more into any of this until after waivers on all these guys that's going on out there. The main thing on this one, like I would expect a little bit of Isaiah Pacheco to get eaten into a little bit more by Samaje Perine and Carson Steele, but again, like you're still generally going to get like that volume based RB1, not going to probably get design passing work. He did have a 23 yarder, but only 3 targets, so he's going to be a little bit limited. Essentially what we thought we already knew on that one. Packers Eagles did see that Bryce Young or Jordan Love, Jordan Love, he did looks like 3 to 4 weeks on an MCL sprain, so it's not an ACL. In this case, like that's generally okay if you can hold on to some of your Packers shares. You might even like want to go out and buy them at this case, waiting for that to come back. Josh Jacobs looked bad early and then was able to turn around late, like only 3 targets. And then Emmanuel Wilson, this is the makes it a little odd. So he was very efficient, 4 for 46. And then he had 3 more targets to go along with that. And that's with Marshawn Lloyd, like expecting that he's going to eat into this. The other interesting thing on this one that I saw was like Luke Musgrave, 2 targets. The guy that was on the field was like Tucker Kraft. Romeo Dobbs was the guy that we thought he was going to be. Jaden Reed, again, probably going to be very boom bust. Another thing that we thought we were going to be like Christian Watson saves his day with that touchdown catch, like 3 for 13 on five targets. So I would still imagine those guys are going to flip. And then Dontavian Wicks, the guy that we were like maybe hoping was going to be the dark horse league winner, he only does like 3 targets to go along with that. I did see like some of the clips on Saquon, like that was he hasn't looked this good in a while, probably since even like college. So like you may have had your league winner. Where he was going at, he went up to like I think like $55 in my main money league, which was about $10 more than I had him priced at. So the guy that went out and paid for him, like good for you. You know, I got my Brees shares at 60, so they were able to go get Barkley about like 55. And in my high school league, that snake draft league, he went at a pick that like I was hoping he would be there on the flop. He wasn't there on the flop. That's how I wanted it with Drake London. So like that's just how it works out sometimes. Like the guy's price versus like where you're willing to go out and get him. Like no one's going to trade Barkley at this point. And the other thing is because he did have a receiving touchdown to go along with those 2 targets. So those targets may not be there, but again, design receiving work is more important than just being a check down monster in that one. And then generally AJ Brown, Devontae Smith being those guys, like Dallas Goedert being the number 3, like not going to win you a league. In general, the other thing was what's his face, the rookie. I could go look this up. Players, the rookie for the Eagles. Where is he at? Will Shipley. So like only 5% snaps. So expecting that he was going to have a certain amount of usage in the offense, design usage, like that just wasn't there. That was a little surprising to me. And then Kenny Gainwell, 20% snaps, 1 carry and then 1 target. That's generally what I, at the very least, I would have thought like Will Shipley was going to be. And then Barkley does 80% snaps with the 24 rushes, gets red zone work there, and then design receiving work like that. Yeah, that's a little ridiculous when it comes down to that one. So like I don't know, like if you already paid for them because you ain't selling them, and no one's going to be selling them to you on that one. Steelers Falcons already talked about. Cardinals Bills. So this is another one. So I did see that what's his face, Trey McBride had 29% target share on those 9 targets, so that's good. Doesn't matter. He did 5 for 30. That's good. Generally, the idea behind the Cardinals was they're going to be like a slower team that runs the football a lot. And that's generally what they were in this one. Trey Benson, 3 carries, another target. There's DeMarcado. He's going to have 2 targets. So again, even if James Conner goes down, you're probably still looking at some type of timeshare between those 2 guys in the future. James Conner, like going to be fringe RB1 because, if he can get about like 4 or 5 targets a game, that's going to be there. And then, the red zone work, like it may be ugly, but he may be that guy. So congratulations on that one. Drake Dortch does 8 targets. Like that's camp hype that we heard about ahead of time. But what doesn't make this interesting to me is, they got to be vertical shots. They got to be more than just like, you're 6 for 47. That's not going to win me a league. Again, Michael Wilson, he gets like the red zone target, gets a touchdown. And then Marvin Harrison, 3 targets, 1 for 4. That's going to be a little bit interesting, expecting that like he was going to get some of the better targets. So this isn't actually that surprising from some of the stuff that like we thought we knew going into the season, that Marvin Harrison just may not be that guy at the price he was going at, relative to where he's going in the offense. Like similar to like Bijan going to last year's Falcons, like Marvin Harrison just may not get like that 10, somewhere between like 8 to 10 targets a game. And they have to be the full route tree. They have to be like in the red zone. He's got to be able to take like 60 yarders to the house. He has to be able to do those things. If they're not going to use him that way, again, going back to Drake London, like the difference between these two is this was something that we kind of already could guess about going into the season with Marvin Harrison. That's why I moved him down and said like he's getting too risky as opposed to Drake London because of the coaches that were coming out of that Rams coaching tree, thinking that they're going to throw the football a lot in that offense, and then they didn't do that. So like generally the Cardinals operating the way that they did, not surprising. Now going over to the Bills, so like the Cardinals jumped out to a 17-0 lead in this one, and then the Bills just were good. Josh Allen not being a turnover machine, unlike Jalen Hurts, who's a turnover machine, 4 touchdowns. Couple of the other surprising things. James Cook does 19 carries to go against like Ray Davis's 3, and then he does another like 3 targets. Ray Davis did get 1, so it does look like Ray Davis may end up being that handcuff in that offense. There's Ty Johnson, 1 target, so it may end up being a little bit running back by committee if James Cook goes down. From the passing game perspective, the fear was that the Bills passing game was going to turn into like some type of receiver by committee, and that's exactly what it was. I think Keon Coleman didn't have a catch until like the second half or something like that. Mac Hollins gets a touchdown catch. Where's that? Dalton Kincaid only 2 targets. He didn't get targeted until later in the game. Dawson Knox led the team in receiving for a large portion of the game because he was like 1 for 23, and no one. It took a while for everybody else to get up there. Khalil Shakur like one touchdown catch to go along with 3 targets, and that was going to be some of the problem. Like he may end up being the most valuable guy in the offense from a consistency standpoint on a week-to-week basis, and he's going to be like only flirting with like wide receiver 3. This is like, good for real football, bad for fantasy football on that one. When it comes to Dalton Kincaid, if you're spent on him, and I spent on him in both my leagues, I'm not really worried. I kind of already knew this was going to happen. I planned for it in both of my leagues ahead of time. That's why I always advocate going like 2 guys. One to throw my dart at, like if he's going to be a unicorn, and then the other one, like, at the certain price to go out and get him. I might make a move in one of my leagues to go after that 29% Trey McBride, because I think I can do it because I have TJ Hawkinson on my bench in that league. So I can maybe flip that based off of that. In this case with Dalton Kincaid, I imagine you're going to get these spike weeks. So you're looking at something like your Dallas Goddards out there that, or your Dalton Schultz, that because they're attached to the situation they are, you're going to just have like all these like tight end wasteland weeks. And then you're going to turn around on certain weeks and you're going to go like, well, I had a guy who had like, 8 receptions for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. And that's just maybe how it works out when it comes to the Bills in general and their usage. But again, I will be breaking this down. Like, I am a little curious about like how they used Keon Coleman, in the offense, not just, the 5 targets, but how those targets shook out. And again, those took a little while to materialize in the offense. Let's see. Titans Bears. The Bears were ugly. Like, I don't care what the box score was. Like, it looked like the Titans were gonna just like walk away with this game early on. Like, you can see, I think it was like 17-0 in this game, and then the Bears came back. I didn't even know the Bears came back until I looked this up. Like, I rolled the Bears kicker in this game, and I was like, great, like, awesome. I was expecting like a good offense, a good to serviceable offense against like, not a good defense, and that's not what generally went down. So in this one, like, Will Levis, not good in this one. So like, I would be getting out from underneath my Calvin Ridley shares. Like, yeah, it's early, but again, if I can get something back, like the idea that you're going to get this lightning in a bottle may not be taking place. Now, the caveat to this is the Bears defense is good. They finished the season good last year. This could just be one of those 1 week things, like the bad matchups. So like, if you're wondering about like your 7 targets with Calvin Ridley, generally, where he was going at, you paid for what you got. Like, it's just not, you're not going to get this massive breakout to go along with it. And then Tony Pollard, like 4 targets to go along with 16 carries. Like, he looks like he's the guy in the offense. So if you guessed right on your Tony Pollard shares, that's what you got. But again, you're probably not getting a good offense. You're probably going to get somewhere between like a not good to okay offense when it comes to the Titans. And I'm looking at DeAndre Hopkins had one target, and then Tyjae Spears has 4 more. So like, Tyjae Spears still has like some fringe standalone value, let alone the fact that he probably would get the whole backfield on that one. And again, with Caleb Williams, like, did not look good early from what I saw. Healthy scratch for Roschon for that one. That was a little interesting. And then DeAndre Swift, 10 carries. And more importantly, like, only 1 target in this one. 8 targets going to DJ Moore, 11 going to Keenan Allen. And he was like somewhere between like a game time decision and, going to be on a snap count. So that 11 targets. And then Romo as far as like, that's a little ugly on that one. Like, again, not saying that nothing that's like necessarily surprises me on this one. Like, shouldn't be putting all my eggs in one basket. Like, it wasn't going to be football Jesus more than likely. You were generally, if I was more interested in the theoretical ability for Caleb Williams to get like red zone work, like we saw at Jaden Daniels, to be able to push him ahead. So if this was a higher volume passing offense, which 93 yards is not going to be, to go along with the theoretical ability to be Josh Allen in the red zone, that's what you were looking at with Caleb Williams. Now, again, week 1, I'm not panicked about any of this stuff. It's just the direction that I should be looking at going in this one is probably like not going to be that like good to great offense that we could have speculated about being in the range of outcomes. All right. Patriots Bengals. So our dreams of an Andre Iosivas breakout are gone. He did have 6 targets to go along with this one. Jamar Chase, whatever's going on with that, 6 targets. In general, this is one of those things that like the writing was on the wall that like there's a lot of distractions going on with the Bengals. The other thing when it comes to the Patriots, with Gerard Mayo coming from that Bill Belichick school, like just take away the best players. Like this is not surprising in any way, shape, or form when it comes to that. Like, I'm not shocked that the Patriots were able to go take advantage of the Bengals that have had like massive distractions. A couple guys that may or may not be doing some shenanigans when it comes to that thing. In general, I was hoping that like Joe Burrow would be able to rise above and take advantage of like Sivas. That didn't happen. Look at Gesicki, 4 targets. Tanner Hudson had 3 in that one. So in general, like not overly surprising. Zach Moss only 9 carries, but like 1 rushing touchdown. So that was going to be the concern that like the overall usage when it gets split between the two guys. So like Chase Brown, like 3 targets. Zach Moss had 4 targets. So it looks like Zach Moss is the guy in this one. Those 9 carries versus the 3 targets, or 3 carries for Chase Brown. And in this one, like the other hope was because vacated targets tend to go to running backs, that they were going to go to Chase Brown in the first place. That didn't happen. So not going to be like, not going to overreact to any of this, but like in general, like not surprising. When it comes to the Patriots, they were going to be conservative. They're going to play a particular script. They're going to go like, we're going to be we're going to be conservative. We're going to make you make mistakes. We're going to stay in the game. We're going to run the football. We're not going to push the ball down the field. So Jolyn Polk only 1 target. So the rest of the passing game, I'm not really interested at this point until like, theoretically there's Drake May that comes in. 7 carries for Antonio Gibson, and he wasn't even used in the passing game on that one. So when it comes to Ramondre, like obviously a great pick. This is one of the things that we're tracking out, like having the ability, $9 million a year. They're telling you he's a top 10 running back. Could theoretically get receiving work. This is what bothers me a little bit more, the check down monster work. So he's not going to meet that criteria. And then the 25 carries for 120, that doesn't matter from a fantasy perspective. It's red zone work, and he's probably going to have a limited opportunity to score touchdowns. And then if he's not going to get like design passing work vertically downfield, you're still going to get like a solid RB2. You paid for an RB2. You're probably going to get like a very good pick that's going to allow you to get close to winning a league. But like this is not something that I think is sustainable from his ability to score rushing touchdowns, and then he's not going to get that receiving work because of how the offense is going to be set up. So it probably looks better. You're happy if you roll him out as a flex or running back 2, but I don't think this is necessarily sustainable at this rate. See, Texans and Colts. So this one was like all over the place from what I saw of this game in general. So again, CJ Stroud not going to generally have enough when it comes to the rushing work. That's why like the rushing quarterbacks are going to be the ones that win you leagues in this case. Like 2 for 34 and 2 touchdowns to go along with 4 for 13 in this one. So like you're getting a punt. He's fine. He did what he was supposed to do in this one. A sip of water. And then in this case with Joe Mixon, like 30 carries, 1 touchdown. That's good. Again, a guy attached to a good offense, volume-based guy attached to a good offense. What I want to look at is the three targets. So yeah, I'm going to get close to an RB1 because of now they are projected to be a good offense. So versus Ramondre, who's going to have limited opportunity to score, like Joe Mixon's going to have a lot more opportunities to score. Him being a check down monster attached to a good offense, it allows him to be like Isaiah Pacheco in this case. So that's good. So like this 30 carries for 159, that's not something I can necessarily bank on. What I can bank on is that he's going to get a certain amount of check down work, and he's going to have a lot more red zone opportunity than a guy like Ramondre. So that's generally good. So Cam Akers, healthy scratch. Dameon Pierce was the second guy in line. So that tells me a lot about theoretically like who I would want to be holding on to if I'm going to be building my lineup as the season goes on. I don't necessarily think I would have to do it right now. And even in this case, like it doesn't necessarily mean that if Joe Mixon goes down, like Dameon Pierce is going to get the load, but it does tell me like this is what generally the thought process is behind the Texans is they're just going to ride Joe Mixon, and the number 2 running back for the Texans is just there to spill the bell cow Joe Mixon. So this is kind of what we were hoping it was going to be. It wasn't going to be some type of running back by committee. Nico 8 for 6 for 117. Yeah, wide receiver 1. There you go. And then the other thing is on this one, like this is generally what we thought was going to happen. So Stephon Diggs, like he does get 2 touchdowns on his 6 targets. And then Tank Dell, 7 targets to be the number 2 behind Nico Collins. But you can already tell like these are going to be boom bust weeks out of Tank Dell. So like that's good if I built him in that right way of like a flex wide receiver 3, or even in that like certain builds like wide receiver 2. So like this is all exactly what we thought. Dalton Schultz probably shouldn't be rostered in any leagues at this point. Alec Pierce was always good. He's always going to be that wide receiver 3. I hate to break it to anybody. Like three for 125 and a touchdown. Michael Pittman, 8 targets. So again, probably going to be better days in the future. Adonai Mitchell, 5 targets. Like probably going to be better days in the future. Anthony Richardson falls in the end zone rushing. Has another interception. I think didn't fumble in this one. So like the 9 for 19, 2 touchdowns, and again, 6 for 6 and a touchdown. Like this is what you bought. Like he doesn't. It's not a real football channel. This is a fantasy football channel. This is what I was buying when I went out and got Anthony Richardson. So I can go out at the price I was paying and go get quarterback 4. And again, the only other guys that allowed me to go compete with your Josh Allens, who went quarterback 1 mostly in your leagues, I had to go out and pay for Anthony Richardson, or I had to go out and pay for Jaden Daniels at their cost. Now, the other thing to remember in all this is like Baker May, threw four touchdown passes, and outside of like maybe 2 quarterback leagues, no one rolled Baker May. So your 2 opportunities to go compete with the quarterback 1 ended up being like a middle of the road top 10 quarterback because of that rushing upside. And then a guy that, because of that rushing upside, Jane Daniels going right about like quarterback 10, versus the guy who had to go up and spend like round 2 Josh Allen, round 4 Josh Allen. So again, in this case, like that's why your Baker Mayfields, your CJ Strouds, those guys, like they don't matter. You got to go out and you got to get your hold of your Jane Daniels and Anthony Richardson, because when those weeks come together, like Josh Allen, 2 passing touchdowns to go along with 2 rushing touchdowns. Like there's only going to be so many guys that can put that together. And your best week with like CJ Stroud, like, yeah, he can do 289, 4 touchdowns. Like, but how many weeks is he going to do 4 touchdowns? As opposed to like a Josh Allen or a Jaden Daniels. In this case with Jaden Daniels, like, yeah, can he do 88 yards and like 1 passing touchdown, 1 rushing count every week? Probably. Yeah, that's well within his range of outcomes. Baker May's not going to do 4 passing touchdowns. CJ Stroud, can he do 2 passing touchdowns a week? Yeah, absolutely. You're going to be basically like half of what like your Josh Allen's, your Jaden Daniels, and your Anthony Richardson going to be on a week-to-week basis on that one. All right. I think that's about it. And then Jonathan Taylor, like, if he's not used in the passing work or the passing game, it doesn't matter. I think he was like one of the few bell cows this week at like 90% snaps or something like that. So when it comes down to that, so again, not going to get the receiving work, and then you're generally hoping that he doesn't get vultured in the red zone. So the other thing to remember, like he's Derrick Henry. That's it doesn't matter from a fantasy perspective. Statistically, they're just the same guy. All right, moving on. Let's see, where did I leave off? Jacksonville Dolphins. So this was another one that I thought it looked like the Jacksonville was going to run away with this. And again, this is a fantasy football channel, so other stuff that's going on, I'm not going to really talk about my feelings on. So in this case with like Trevor Lawrence, like, the idea that you're going to get that breakout quarterback, probably not going to be there. The main thing that I saw in this one that was like really interesting. So Tank Bigsby, I think he only did like 40% snaps that I saw, like 39% snaps, something like that, but 12 carries to go along with it. So again, like probably going to be one of the more valuable pickups like after waivers. I don't know how many guys are going to be like really knife fighting for Tank Bigsby, but like these 12 carries to go along with this one, like, yeah, I should start planning ahead. Not necessarily as the ETN owner at this point, but like in general, like 12 carries, what attaches to be like an okay offense, like it obviously when we get to Blake Corum is going to have more value for Tank Bigsby, and to not have him be on the waiver wire in one way, shape, or form versus somebody else that are out there, like, yeah, Tank Bigsby should probably be a priority guy. Now, from a passing game perspective, what I saw was Gabe Davis led everybody in snaps, and then Brian Thomas Jr. was second, then Christian Kirk. Now, Brenton Strange and Farrell, the third tight end in this case, I can go look him up so we can talk about him. They actually had about like 14 snaps apiece in this one from what I saw. And again, I don't have like the actual numbers at this point. Luke Farrell, he was at like 14 snaps. Brenton Strange was at like 14 snaps. And then Evan Ingram was at like 34 snaps. So again, like I think they had like 50 total snaps of what I saw of Gabe Davis on the field. And then we have like 4 for 1. So this is already something that we kind of knew was probably going to happen in terms of this offense in general, that he wasn't going to be that guy. Now, the difference is like with Gabe Davis, like getting most of the snaps and going like 3 for 62. That's Gabe Davis. Brian Thomas Jr., there's still possibility that his snaps will go up and he will get integrated further into the offense. And he did, from what I saw, like he drew like a 40-yard PI in this one. So again, like, yeah, that's the guy. Like sometimes like you gotta be a little patient that he's gonna be the guy. And it looks like he's gonna be the guy in this offense as the season goes on. There may be a slight cap overall to the limitations of the offense. Like again, Real Football Channel, Fantasy Football Channel, 21 attempts, 162 yards, probably not going to be enough to sustain anybody unless like they can like basically double that. Talk a little bit about the Chargers and the Raiders here in a second. And then when it comes to the Dolphins, like it looked like Dolphins were going to get like mud hole stomped, and they were able to come back in the second half and win this game. So this is one of the weird things about like football. Like you have like 400 total yards of offense for the Dolphins, and they only scored 20 points in this game. So again, like 338, one touchdown. To go along with this. Now Tyreek Hill 12 targets. So again, like any idea that like he's going to be over the age apex. We'll talk a little bit more of that as the season goes on, because the age apex on these guys tends to hit in the second half of the season, the first half of the season. But again, if you spent on your Tyreek Hill like 12 for 7 for 130 and a touchdown, that's an 80-yarder late. Jalen Waddle, let's see, was in and out of the lineup, but again, like you paid for what you got, like 5 targets, 5 for 5 for 109. And then nothing else of really any interest when it comes to the like receivers. I'm going to talk about like Devin Achane here. So Jalen Wright was a healthy scratch in this game. And then Achane did do 10 for 24. So he basically like had the same amount of carries as Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert combined. And Jeff Wilson was the running back 3 today in this game. Now, the interesting thing, and I looked it up beforehand to go find this, is the 7 targets that Devin Achane had in this game. So again, when we're talking, and some of these were like design passing, where I did watch some of the highlights of this game to try to get an idea of these were not check down monster snaps. So again, like, yeah, I don't know how you're going to basically be able to go out and buy Devin Achane if, you didn't already pay for him. And we talked about like, he did have a road to being like a legendary season, like league winner. Like, yeah, 7 for 7 for 76. That's all I need to care about. Then he also got a 1-yard touchdown run. So there you go. If you're wondering about like the stuff that we thought we knew and we wanted to find out, well, we found that out today, based off of everything that went on with the Dolphins and the running backs. Panthers and Saints. So there's another idea that maybe the Panthers are going to be like, not bad. Yeah, they're bad. And this one, and then Miles Sanders actually like outgained Chuba Hubbard in this one. Like this was ugly from the get-go. Interesting thing here is Xavier Leggett 4 for 35 on 7 targets. So again, I don't know how much of pieces of bad offenses I want to be buying, but like that's a little bit interesting to me when I look at that in general. And then Jatavion Sanders like only one target in that one, so that's not interesting to me. The other things in this one, like Alvin Kamara, like yeah, age apex and all like doesn't matter. So he did 5 targets for 5 receptions, 27 yards. That went along with another 15 carries and 83 yards. Yeah, so like sometimes like age apex doesn't matter on that one. It's all about like combined opportunities, and he's relatively limited amount of wear on the tires in this case. Like I don't know how much this is going to be sustainable, because like again, the Panthers were projected to not be good, period, on offense and defense. So again, how much is it going to be sustainable? I don't know. Rashid Shaheed, again, a guy that we were like already tracking to be like in that boom bust range of weekly starter. And then Chris Olave, like 2 for 11. So again, I don't know what you're expecting to get out of all of that stuff. Taysom Hill, if he's got that tight end designation, 5 for 35, and then 2 targets. So yeah, he's probably going to vulture some stuff on a few weeks. He's going to be like top 10 relevant. I don't know on that one if I'm really going to be chasing any of that too much. Vikings Giants. So yeah, in this one, over the age apex, Aaron Jones goes 14 for 94 and a touchdown, and he also adds 2 more targets, 2 for 15. Ty Chandler is going to have a little bit of interest, 8 for 17 on the ground, but 3 more targets, 3 for 25. So again, it may be a little bit more of a running back by committee than the overall usage would tend to tell us to begin with. And then interesting game in the standpoint that the Giants are bad. Like Daniel Jones is bad. This isn't necessarily surprising to anybody. So like what we are not going to get out of the Minnesota Vikings, like a defense that can cause a lot of disruption against not a good quarterback. with limited playmaking ability outside of the quarterback. So again, like Devin Singletary is not going to Superman his team in a way that Saquon Barkley could attempt to do in this case. So like this comes down like some of these teams that have certain roads to win games. Like you just don't need to let the Giants have opportunities, and you're going to be able to beat them more than likely. So I don't know. This is one of those things like from a matchup standpoint, like the Vikings just said, okay, we'll just take the easy W. And I don't know what it tells us when it comes down the line to like usage on like Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Jalen Naylor breakout only one target, so like I don't think that's going to happen. And then you can see like Josh Oliver, the blocking tight end, like 2 for 27. So again, like 3 targets for like Johnny Munt. He's another tight end in this one. So again, like I don't know what that tells us. Maybe Aaron Jones has a little bit more value than I initially thought. And then again, like not going to be surprising that Sam Darnold is going to be somewhat fringe. I can go hunt him down when it comes to fantasy relevant, just because you know 3 carries to go along with like two passing touchdowns because he's got weapons. He's got weapons and a good offense. So hold your nose and you're going to be looking at the ability. Sam Darnold's going to have like probably going to have like Baker Mayfield weeks this week in better matchups when it comes to like the Vikings need to score more points. Now, overall, when it comes to the Giants on this one, we do see like the 7 targets that went to Malik Neighbors, 12 went to Wan'Dale Robinson. Didn't even see that ahead of time. So again, we talked about this with like Malik Neighbors. Was not going to be surprising that this is a good piece on a bad offense. That doesn't help us. Now, a couple other things to look at. Overall usage of Tyrone Tracy Jr., 2 carries to go along with another 3 targets. Eric Gray, 1 target to go along with another 2 carries. So I still would be tracking Tyrone Tracy Jr. to eventually take over this backfield. It just becomes an issue of when, and if you're going to knife fight for him or you're going to have him on your bench when that day comes. The other thing is because of Daniel Jones, and we talked about this during the season. I can bring this one up, is how long it's going to take before the Giants actually decide to, where is he at? Pull the trigger on Drew Lock. And Drew Lock taking over the offense may be better for everybody at this case. So again, like waiting on when that day comes, like might tell us a little bit more of who to go after. And then Daniel Bellinger had 1 target and Theo Johnson had 4. So again, that basically tells me like who is the actual tight end one in this offense, probably like Theo Johnson. So that athletic measurables, like at this point, probably not a guy that I would be going after, but he's on my radar of guys that I would be tracking and wanting to know how that was going to shake out in general with these guys. All right. Raiders Chargers. So this is another one we talk about like matchups. So these 2 teams, like Chargers are going to be like very disciplined. They're going to play defense. They're going to run football down your throat. So like Justin Herbert may or may not be factors in games depending on if they need Justin Herbert to do Justin Herbert things. Now, when it comes to the Raiders, they don't have Justin Herbert. They have to play a particular style of football, which is they're gonna make the game ugly on offense, and they're gonna make the game ugly on defense, and that's what they tried to do for most of this game. So you can actually see at a certain point it was like 9-7, and then the Chargers were able to hang like 13 in the fourth quarter, and the Raiders were only put up like 3. So in this case, when it comes down to some of the stuff that like we want to be looking at, Chargers are going to be in that like probably they're going to be a good offense from a real life perspective. They're going to be not a good offense from a fantasy perspective. So the problem with Justin Herbert and that 26 attempts today is they're going to play teams that can put more pressure on them than the Raiders offense. The Raiders offense was projected to be like one of the less good offenses in football. So this is not surprising that the Chargers can, have 27 team carries and they can win the football that game. And they don't have to be aggressive on offense against a team like the Raiders, because being aggressive against a team like the Raiders gives the Raiders a better opportunity to win the game. So that doesn't tell me a lot, because the matchup already told me this was not going to be a very good fantasy football game to begin with. Now, the other stuff I want to look at, like J.K. Dobbins, like, I don't know, you might have to lose a trade to go get J.K. Dobbins, because if he's J.K. Dobbins, like, that's what I like. The 3 targets on him versus the 1 target for Gus Bus, plus the 10 for 135 and a touchdown in this one. And I think, if I remember correctly, the rushing touchdown wasn't the 61-yarder. It was a 12-yard run. So again, like red zone work and receiving work. You might want to start knife fighting for your J.K. Dobbins and just say like, I'll pay you a little bit extra to get a hold of him based off of this. Now, I haven't seen the tape off of it, So again, this would be after waivers when I watch the tape, but this would be something I'd be really interested when it comes to like that league winner type stuff. Now, 7 targets from Ladd McConkey is exactly what I thought was going to happen. Not necessarily going to be the best targets all the time, but 7, and he got the red zone target for the touchdown. So again, that's what matters to me overall. Who's going to be the guy in that offense? So if I spent like a 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th round pick on a Ladd McConkey, and I'm looking at a guy who's going to have 120 targets. Now, are they all going to be good weeks? No. I'm going to get my 5 for 39 weeks. That's going to give me a 40-degree day in like half point PPR, or as long as it's not like real standard leagues, I'm going to have 40-degree day Ladd McConkey. They're going to be spike weeks off of that. Sometimes the sausage is made. I get the touchdown on top of that, and it doesn't matter what happened. I'm able to get what I need out of the guy. The 7 targets, that's all I really care about in that one. He's the wide receiver 1 on a 26 attempt Justin Herbert day. There's going to be better weeks where the Chargers actually have to score points than this one when it comes down to that. When it comes down to the Raiders, on the other hand, what was really interesting is the amount of usage that Alexander Madison got. So like 5 for 19, and then he also had like 4 for 43 and a touchdown on 6 targets. So no Dylan Labe. So that was a little interesting to me on that one. Zamir White did fumble in this game, 2 targets, which I was not expecting to get like any receiving work really out of Zamir White. And then another like 13. And this was ugly because he started like really slow in this game. So again, I'm going to be watching some of that on that one. Now, Brock Bowers, 8 targets, 6 for 58. Again, another one I'd be interested in. And Devontae Adams, 6 targets, 5 for 59. Again, always going to be limited because of the offense in this case. Like probably was always, age, offense, always going to probably be like fringe, a high-end wide receiver 2. That's what you're going to probably get out of him at this point. That's what it looks like is going to go on with him. But Brock Bowers, definitely like top 10 tight end at this point. Like the 8 targets that he got, remember, like I think like 7 targets puts me at 120. 8 targets is going to put me at like 140, something like 136. So like Brock Bowers, like, yeah, like we're in special territory when it comes to him. The biggest issue with your Brock Bowers shares at this point is going to be like the red zone opportunities are probably going to be lower because of the situation on that one. All right. Broncos and Seahawks. So this one, I was kind of watching the box for this one. So it looked like the Seahawks were going to walk away with this one when it was it 19 to 13. And then the Broncos were able to make it close late in the game. So like this stat line with Bo Nix is a little misleading because he really struggled in the first half, and I think he turned around in the second half in this one. And again, I already talked about this with like Bo Nix, sneaky rushing upside, 5 for 35 and a touchdown. So again, like, finding out like where my Bo Nix shares, like quarterback 16, just based off of that. So again, like some of these guys wouldn't be really worried because you're going to have the ability to roll some of these guys out there. Jaleel McLaughlin, like 10 for 27. This offense is probably not going to be super great. And then he also had like another 5 targets. So I don't know how much you're going to be knife fighting. And some of the target shares, and this is what we kind of thought the offense was going to be like. The quick game was going to go on like short passes. 8 targets to Josh Reynolds, but 5 for 45. 8 targets to Devon Vele, 26-year-old wide receiver, rookie, 8 for 39. And then Courtland Sutton, 12 targets, 4 for 38. So maybe I can start stashing on this case. And hopefully the offense will be better as the season progresses because everybody looked bad today. From what little I've watched so far, everybody looked bad. Only a few guys like hit on their picks, like your Barkleys and your Tyreek Hill, some of those guys like Josh Allen, like a lot of other guys like really disappointed, like Marvin Harrison, Drake London, those type of guys. So like I wouldn't be overly concerned. I want to start like planning ahead, and these target shares like 12 targets from Courtland Sutton, like there's going to be a week where they more than likely hit. It just becomes an issue of like how many weeks I can get where they hit versus like how many weeks where they're not going to hit. Can I look in the future and go like, this is week 1 of a long season for me. And then when it comes to Seattle, yeah, Kenneth Walker, like 20 for 103 and a touchdown. And then he also combined that with like 3 targets. Now, again, these look like checking out monster targets, like 2 for 6 to go along with it. But Zach Charbonnet, 2 for 29 and a touchdown on 3 targets. And then he also did like 8 for 12. So much closer to a 50-50 split, it looks like. So again, this is like the snap share I want to be looking at. Probably still going to be like Zach Charbonnet weeks because, I mean, he was able to also find the end zone on this one. So I don't know if I would start anointing like Kenneth Walker like season. Again, the offense is probably going to be in that unpredictable type of category of like maybe not good, maybe not bad, probably not going to be good, probably not going to be like really bad. And then trying to parse out like who's going to get what on a week to week basis is going to be a little bit difficult. And then if they're not going to be high enough value or high enough passing volume to go along with this, like the rushing touchdown that Geno Smith had, I don't know how consistent that's going to be. That's what he was able to do 2 years ago when he was like top 5 quarterback, is that he had the rushing work on a lot more volume passing offense. So again, to be able to predict that. Now, the other thing is like Tyler Lockett, like 7 for 6 for 77. Not expecting that at all. Because like DK is going to be boom bust. That's what DK does. Expecting that Jackson Smith was going to be this guy, and he's not. So again, like I don't know how much I really want to be getting a hold of any pieces of this offense outside of like maybe Zach Charbonnet. If I spent on Kenneth Walker, I'm probably getting what I spent on him. I don't know if I'm going to get like a league winner out of him or anything like that. And then Cowboys and Browns. So this was ugly from what I could see. Like Deshaun Watson is not good at football on that one. And then because they're not good at football and the Cowboys may actually be good at football, like distractions aside, probably don't want any pieces of the Dallas backfield in this one. Like Zeke's going to be like volume-based RB2, like have the ability to fall in the end zone, 10 for 40, a touchdown. Rico Dowdle's not going to be the guy. And then it just becomes an issue of like overall targets. And if anybody was able to get like those targets on that one, check this. Oh, he's a fullback. In this one. So then CeeDee Lamb like 5 for 61 on 10 targets. Brandon Cooks 7 targets. So again, like not going to have like not going to have value at his age, like 1 touchdown on that one. And then he also CeeDee Lamb had 3 more carries in this one to go along with that. So again, like yeah, the bigger issue that I saw, like Jake Ferguson got injured. So that idea, and then from an after waiver standpoint, and I'll talk about this a little bit more when I start looking at it, is the guy to go stash is Luke Schoonmaker, 2nd round draft pick out of Michigan 2 years ago. He has better athletic measurables than Jake Ferguson does. So this might open this up. And because you're generally looking at the possibility of Brandon Cooks being the number 2 in this offense, Jake Ferguson 5 targets. Brandon Cooks is 31. A tight end being the number 2 in an offense that's going to be good is going to be better for me than a wide receiver who's the number 2 in the offense that's going to get about 7 targets. So 7 targets, 120 yards. Like if they're the number 2 option behind CeeDee Lamb versus that tight end's the number 2 option behind CeeDee Lamb, that tight end's going to have a lot more value when it comes down to that. Now, the Browns, expecting that there was going to be another running back behind Jerome Ford, and there was not. So like, league winner Jerome Ford, like here's another guy to go knife fighting for if you're interested in that. The big thing that I saw, like Jerome Ford, 2-yard touchdown run. They were taking him out of the game last year when it came to Jerome Ford. They were bringing in Kareem Hunt. They didn't do that with Pierre Strong. So like they obviously like him. So then I go look at that with Jerome Ford, 7 targets. So game script wise, obviously 33-7. And then that Jerome Ford's touchdown came late in the 4th quarter. So again, that was when it was like 30-10, 33-10, something like that. So like maybe that doesn't tell me anything, but the 7 targets, obviously, like this is already what we thought we were going to know. And then if he's going to get the red zone work, this offense is probably not going to be good. They're just also not going to be bad. Now, the guy to own, obviously, out of the pass catchers right now is David Njoku, 4 for 44, 5 touchdowns. Like he's the top 10 guy. We already knew that. And then if there's going to be other guys, like the interesting thing would be the air yards on Amari Cooper, 9 targets. But Jerry Jeudy break out like 8 targets. Not going to be good. Like you're waiting on Jameis Winston at this point, and it's probably going to happen. Commanders, Buccaneers, already talked a little bit about this game. So when you look at Jayden Daniels, I just took another sip. Jayden Daniels, like 17 for 24. In general, what I was looking at was the amount of sacks and hits that he took. So there was only 2 sacks in this game by the Buccaneers. Now, their 1st round draft pick, I think, didn't play in this game. I forget who it was off the top of my head, but only 2 hits and 2 sacks when it comes down to what the Buccaneers were able to put on the Redskins. So that was what I was a little bit more concerned with when it comes to Jayden Daniels. And then 17 for 24, like that's serviceable. That's all I really care about. He's going to throw some touchdown passes. I was always looking at about like 20-ish touchdown passes to go along with like 600 and like 6 rushing touchdowns to go along with that. So like, he's still in line to do all of that stuff. So like, that's all good stuff. I don't know how consistent these rushing touchdowns are going to be. Brian Robinson Jr. 12 carries, 1 rushing touchdown to go along with 4 targets. So again, like sneaky guy to go look at. Austin Eckler only 4 targets. We already kind of knew that was going to happen in this offense, but only 2 carries to go along with it. So again, the guy to own on that one. And this is going to be another one of like how many pieces of not good offenses I want to go after. McLaurin 4 targets. This is what bothered me a little bit more when I looked at the box score. Is I was expecting like McLaurin to be closer to like 7 to 10 range. He didn't get there. Luke McCaffrey only 3 targets. Those are the only 2 guys I really care about. Don't see Sanat, and then Zach Ertz like 4 targets. So like probably going to be better weeks ahead for the Redskins. They may be like fantasy holy grail as the season goes on, like bad defense to go along with like a better offense. So like we could get some like really interesting weeks when it comes to like Jaden Daniels down the line. Baker Mayfield 4 touchdown passes. Don't know how much I would necessarily want to bake on that. Couple things is I did see Rachaad White like own the backfield, and then this Bucky Irving stuff like kind of jumped out of nowhere. So I don't know how much that's going to be consistent with Rachaad White, but your Rachaad White like 7 or 6 targets, 7 for 75. So like that's going to be something I want to look at. And then how much red zone usage these guys had between the 2 of those, and then when it comes to the wide receivers, I did see that they missed some shots on Jalen McMillan vertically, but Godwin like 8 targets, 8 for 83 touchdown, and Mike Evans like 6 targets, 5 for 61, 2 touchdowns. Like like that, like those are looking in the range of like like league winner at the price that those guys were, or Chris Godwin was going at. Mike Evans maybe not, but like the age apex may not be there when it comes down that one. So like a little bit of interesting stuff on that one down the line. And then Rams Lions. So I did see Puka got knocked out of the game with a knee. Blake Corum didn't see anything. I didn't see anything about like healthy scratch. I didn't see if he got any snaps. I don't know anything about that. I saw at one point Ronnie Rivers was leading the team in rushing, 2 for 16. Now the 18 for 50 when it comes to Kyren Williams against the Lions is not necessarily that intriguing. Like, the overall that he controlled the backfield is a little bit more. I thought like Corum was at least going to do like a third of the work, and the fact that Corum wasn't involved at all. Now with what's his face Puka going down, like Cooper Kupp like 21 targets, but only like 14 for 110 and touchdowns. So like that's good from a fantasy perspective. That's bad from a real football perspective. And then the other guy like Tyler Johnson, like no idea. Like I saw him playing in a limited amount of time that I was. I don't know anything about like Tyler Johnson. Demarcus Robinson 7 targets with Puka going down. So like these things. Colby Parkinson. Most of this was early, and then Jordan Whittington was expecting that he would be part of this. Like only 1 kick return that I saw that. So like some of the stuff that we thought we were going to know, we're definitely wrong at. Now when it comes to the Lions. David Montgomery, like, this is what we thought was going to happen. Like, it was going to be running back by committee. And then the interesting thing is like, 6 targets for Jahmyr Gibbs. He did get a red zone carry in this one. So like, he still has that road to like that legendary season because of usage. Where's he at? Gibbs 1 yard run. So as long as he's in, if he can get that Alvin Kamara type efficiency, like, he can do that. The 1 rushing touchdown to go along with like the 6 targets. Now, this one, Jameson Williams, 9 for 5 for 121 touchdown. And I did call the Sun God and Laporta potentially being like not good picks this year. Jameson Williams, like, I don't know how much consistency this is going to happen with, but like, this was predictable to a certain extent on that one. And again, it's just going to be an issue of like how much we can expect that Jameson Williamson can get 9 targets a game. If he gets 9 targets a game and a carry, league winner right there on that one. So anyway, I believe that's about all I got for today. And then I'll fold in the Jets and 49ers into either Chasing the Dragon or into After Waivers when I get that one done, when I get the snap shares and start breaking down like some of the details of what's going on with all the stats. But that's about what happened, how sausage was made when it comes to week 1.